Welcome everyone. We're here again with another episode of Above and Below. I'm your host, Navriti Sood, and this season we are focusing on her story, and we're talking to some amazing women and entrepreneurs who are doing some compelling work that are shifting our paradigms on how we experience life, work, and everything in between.
Yes.
And today I am so honored to welcome my guest, Felicia Hinds Patrick, who is the founder and CEO of Sacred Soul, Sacred with a K. She is a spiritual life coach and healer, and she is also starting her I Am movement. And we're going to dive deeper into what that's all about, and it's starting on January 24th, which, wink wink, is on the Aquarius new moon.
Yes.
Welcome, Felicia.
Thank you, Navirti, for having me.
I am so honored and excited to talk to you more about your journey. So Sacred Soul, I mean, that carries a lot of, depth, and I'm just so curious about, just tell me about what led you to want to start Sacred Soul and become a healer? Don't leave anything out.
Don't leave it. Okay, let's see where we start. Oh man, life. Life took me there. I had no idea this was coming. It literally hit me on my head, and I'm like, all right, this is what's going on. To tell my story, I realized I started to lose myself. I did not know who I was. I got to that point in life, I'm like, had to question, who are you? Like, I didn't recognize the woman in the mirror to be me. The choices that I was making, I didn't recognize them either. Like, I knew those are not who I really am, but I'm going to just keep going through them because I was avoiding things in life. I came to a point in my life I felt depleted. I felt like I was giving more than I was getting. I felt like I was being pulled in so many directions, and I was just like, okay, what about me? And I was like, in all avenues I felt completely depleted, whether it was financially, whether it was done. So in that lower vibrational space, it's so interesting the choices we make, and then we continue to cause this domino effect of negativity that is happening around us. And that's where I was. I started to make choices where I'm in a marriage, but I was going outside the marriage to find what I felt I was missing. So there I am, trying to use something in physical world to make me feel better. So I did that, and even in that process, I'm like, there's something that, and I couldn't stop it. Like, I didn't want to stop it, let's just say that. Didn't have that control to do that. So in that process, which lasted literally a whole year and a week from the moment I met the person, which in itself was a very deep thing, because I felt like I knew the person, although I never knew them, but it was this connection. Not even, people were like, it was a sexual connection. No, it was like, I know this soul. But anyhow.
And this is someone that you're not married to?
Not married to. And this is while I was married. So it was interesting like how this all came in. But the way I speak now is relating to, I can see what was going on. So when I got to that, being with this person for this amount of time, 1 year, 1 week, I know you're familiar with numbers, and we kind of think them as signs as well. So that's like an 11. He passed away. He died tragically. He was in a tragic motorcycle accident.
Wow.
And that was when I was like, okay, holy crap, what's going on? What's going on? And that's because although he died, it was a part of me that died as well, because I'm like, now I'm mourning someone that no one even knows exists. Well, my husband had a little feeling about him. We spoke about it, and I said, okay, no, I will stop even communicating with the person, whatever the case may be, so to save my marriage. But in that space, it was like, I didn't even care. So it's so funny when you're there, you completely lose yourself. So that's where I was, and that hurt, that pain, that I felt like the death of my soul literally happened in that moment. And I was like, what is happening here?
So it was the loss of the soul connection that you had.
Yes.
And connected with, I know we've talked about this offline, connected with your quote-unquote picture-perfect life that was happening.
Right.
Tell me more about that. What was this picture-perfect life?
The picture-perfect life was, I was married, I had my 2 beautiful boys, I had my house. It was actually a brand new renovated house. We were doing things as a family. All the things from the outside looking in, was amazing. But steps that got us there it was so hard for me. I didn't know how to deal with them. And instead of dealing with them, I used to kind of sweep things under the carpet instead of addressing things that were bringing me inner turmoil. It was more like,
and this was about work,
in the
family.
work, family, whether the work issues, I just was like, all right. The family issues, typical issues I guess married couples all have, just looks different. It's the same thing. Like financial issues, and the weight of the family was on me because my husband at the time was going through a lot. Wasn't working. So it was a lot. And then new children, oh my gosh, it's like a shock to the, never mind the body, but then everything else. And it's like, oh, how are we doing this? And then wondering, how are we going to make it? So the dynamics in my life continue to change. Instead of learning how to address them, I ran from them and just kept running and running. So of course I'm building up a trail of things to bring me to that space where layers were put on top of everything. It's like
sweeping under the rug.
Yeah, sweeping
we're
under the
building
rug,
those layers,
wearing those masks, so like you're pretending things are okay and it's not, and actually making yourself believe that. But meanwhile,
and seeking another person.
Yeah. Meanwhile, your choices clearly show that you haven't dealt with your situation. So, and then them leaving or dying so traumatically and tragically, it was just like, wow. And interesting thing about that is when I met the person, the first thing that came to my mind was that motorcycle will be the end of them. Don't know where that came from. That used to always bother me. It's not to say they were reckless. It was just like, why am I having that thought? And then when it did happen, part of me was like, oh my gosh, did I have anything to... It's a place you go and you're like, do I have anything to do with that? So it was a lot to deal with. And I didn't feel like I can go to therapy. I didn't feel that was necessary. I tried grievance counseling. I think my grievance counselor was more taken by my story than was able to help me. It was like, wow, that's amazing. I think you should see someone. And she was actually referencing me to a spiritual person to work with to understand the depth. And that's kind of where the seed was planted. I'm like, okay, that's what I need. Something bigger than all of this. And it opened up the whole spiritual aspect for me, bigger than I was conscious of before. And I started seeking medium. And I was like, talk to me about what happened here.
So you were called to explore spiritual guidance and the spiritual wisdom that is available to us and accessible to us.
Yeah, something I would have never, because my belief system didn't allow that. But at that moment, I surrendered and I was open to the awakening that was happening. I was like, well, whatever it is, I'm ready for it. So it's an interesting thing when we get to that space, and it happens to a lot of us, when we're just like, okay, I'm ready, I'm listening. We have to fall flat on our backs to actually look up.
So I'm really curious to ask you more about that. So when you experienced the soul death, and essentially, let's say you stopped running, right? And you were surrendering and kind of trusting, you know, once this death came about you in a literal way, because your partner experienced that physical death. But also internally, you were realizing that you're going through this death. So when you were in the state of surrender, what questions or answers or experiences came up?
Oh man!
During this death period.
During that period, the deepest questions I never thought I'd ask myself is, for one, was where do people go when they die? That was like my first question. Where do people go when they die? So I started to research that. I became obsessively researching what happens to people when they die. Where does the soul go? What is going? And that's when I started to learn all these different things. And I had even moments, you know, when people pass, you start to get things that happen. You're like, they're talking through things. My screen would freeze on stuff that I'm supposed to, I guess, read. So I'm like, okay, fine, I'm going to read this. I understand. So I went through those phases. I asked that question. Then I started to ask, what is my purpose? Then I started to ask, what is life all about? What is the meaning of us being here? Like, I was going to places like, and I needed answers. And I was like, somewhere, I need to find this. And the more I wanted to know, the more I was guided. And I started getting the answers. I had the medium who started it from the beginning, and she was like, that soul was there to inspire you. We might have misinterpreted what it was for, and it was just there to kind of like tap you on your shoulder and tell you it's time to wake up. You have work. You came here to do something, and it's not whatever you were doing. it's what you're about to do. And then I asked her, so what is my purpose? And she was like, you're going to work with people, women, and you're going to show them and help them change their lives and start believing in themselves. And she was like, you actually been doing it, but not on a smaller scale, just by being you. But you're going to do it on a bigger scale. Couldn't see it. I'm like, me, group of women, changing lives, couldn't see it at all. But then I did look at myself in the amount of lives I kind of changed just by being me. And I was like, I see it. Okay, I see it. I see what I've done without trying. So we went from there. And then it went into the next phase, a shaman. I was just guided to a shaman. My sister used to talk about one, and I used to, again, not listen to her because I'm like, I don't believe in this stuff. And I shut her down or shut her out.
So for our listeners who might not know what a shaman is, can you tell us what a shaman is?
A shaman, and I don't want to downplay them, but their role is more so to spiritual guides that they believe in. We're all one with the earth, and they kind of teach us from, like, they go through like the darkness to take you in your darkness and bring you to the light. So it was a journey. I did a lot of meditation work with my shaman. I did a lot of clearing work with, energy work. And that experience in itself was something mind blowing. I was like, oh my, energy's working, things are shutting down, the visions that he's sharing with me, and then I'm feeling. I was like, this is amazing and interesting, and I'm like, I'm floating. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, can you describe maybe a profound moment, if you feel comfortable to share, that you experienced going through this healing and transformational journey?
One in particular, I remember, and this is what's more interesting, is that he actually resides in Atlanta and I live in New York. So we've been doing this only on the phone. So the amount of energy that actually happens on the phone, I couldn't believe it. It took me a while to say, how's this going to work? I mean, should we be in each other's presence? Not necessary. So I started to learn that in that moment. But in one situation in particular, he said, I'm going to share with you everything I see. And he started to, and I was in deep meditation, and then he started to talk about how many spirit guides had surrounded me. And it was 8. Man, woman, man, woman, man, woman. It was that experience, man, woman, all around me. Then like an atonement was happening. And then a whole full out ritual happened. And from that moment, I swear my whole there was the biggest shift I've ever had in my life was after that experience, to the point that he even seemed like he was in shock for a minute. Like, are you back yet? So it was and for him, he's like, I've never had this, because his music cut off. He had his little birds chirping in the background. He said his lights cut off on his end, and he was like, this is
powerful stuff.
He was like, this has never happened, and I'm going to be honest.
So my next question for you is, going through this transformation and healing yourself, how did you feel a shift in mindset, or did you feel like you got any answers from, from the challenges, frankly, that you were experiencing prior to seeking spirituality as a way to heal and grow?
Prior to, I was not getting anything, but after, it's like I stepped into a whole other world, a whole other space. Like, I understood, like he would say, you'll feel a shift. I didn't even know what I'm supposed to feel. So I was like, it's gonna move me to the side, and I'm like, what is a shift? But then when it happened, it was like, that was it.
So was it a feeling?
It was a feeling, like you came to a place where I felt like my heart opened, bigger than it's ever opened before.
Wow.
And it was like a healing in my heart, and he started to teach me, and which I've learned to share with others, that's my mind. Your heart mind is your true mind, not the one we always seem to go from. And when I started to come from that place, there was a healing happening in my home. Me and my husband got to a place where there was a forgiving going on. I was forgiving him for the things I couldn't let go. He was forgiving me for that moment that I put him through for that year. And it was like, we got stronger. Instead of crumbling like most people say, oh, well, that relationship went to... It happened, and it made us stronger. It was which is one of the most beautiful things. It brought that peace in my home, and it trickled down to my children. And it was like the shift that we're living in right now, we'll call it, of the consciousness, and this place of coming from our heart center and that love. It's in the home. And that's what... Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's just there. It's our life now, and it's one of the most beautiful things. So beyond where it took me for my work, what it did for every aspect of my life, and it's why I said this is something everyone should be doing.
Right, so I want to continue on with that a bit more. So after going through this transformation and healing and, bringing that energy in all aspects of your life, what brought you to become a spiritual life coach and a healer? First of all, what would you say, what is a spiritual life coach?
Okay, before I got to a spiritual life coach, I believe, is someone who enlightens others about the enlightenment, teaching you that you are what a spiritual being actually is. A lot of people are like, okay, we're spiritual beings. What does that mean? So it's teaching you it from the ground up. Being a spiritual being, having a human experience. Again, I love to use that quote. And it's to understand that means we're integrating our mind, our body, and our soul. But when we come here and have the human experience, we get so distracted by the physical.
Externalities.
Anything outward. And we forget our soul. And it's been happening since almost the beginning of time. We go back to ancient teachings and you learn it through everything. So and it's to remind you that you need perfect harmony. It's like a triangle for me, and it's like to draw a triangle when I say we need all of that for the balance, mind, body, soul. So the spiritual life coach is to remind you about that aspect that we tend to forget that causes us to get stuck in life. Yes.
So tell me more about the work. One, is it with groups?
A little of everything. I do the one-on-one work. That's how I really started, together with the Akashic record readings, which I will dive into next. But the one-on-one work, I do the Reiki healing mixed with other energy healing. People come to my home, which is my workspace. I have a space for that. And we do a lot of clearings, and we do those kind of things. I also do meditation circles, group meditation, or one-on-one if people just want to learn that meditation and do it. I do have my online courses where I do my Sacred Soul, the Akashic reading, but I call it Sacred Soul Reconnection. That's a 3-week course because I give you so much information that I break it out into 3 weeks and teach you how to apply it to your life like that.
So what is an Akashic reading?
Amazingly, I did not know when I learned it. I stumbled upon it when I was trying to do self-healing. So I learned Akashic work. It was actually a course I took that required certification. And I'm like, okay, fine. And that's when I learned my gift, because I practiced on people. That was an amazing part in itself. So the Akashic readings is basically, I go into your soul records, and people don't understand that our souls have been here many times. So there's like records on us, but I see it in the ether or in the sky, however anyone wants to visualize it. And we're able to look at how we created at a soul level. And I can share with someone, these are your gifts. These are your traits based on your energy composition. Like, this is who, and most times when you tell them that, it's a confirmation. It's not like, oh, is that really me? No, it's like, oh my gosh, that is me, but I kind of let that go because I should be a doctor instead, or but that doesn't even fit. I should be doing this instead of this, and they let go of those gifts, or they're not just bringing it into the space they're at. So that the readings change people's lives because now they become conscious of things that they were not, and they were just robotically doing like we tend to do.
Right, the preconditioning that we have of how we should be and what we should be doing.
So this gives them permission to say, oh my gosh, you're sharing something with me. Especially when it comes from a stranger, it's like, okay, let me hear her, because how did she know this, or whatever the case may be.
More details on your clients. What kind of problems do people and your clients come to you with?
The first thing that most of them will say is, I'm experiencing blockage, and I can't get anything I want to get. So I'm like, okay, we'll work on that. But most of the problems is either problems with confidence, or usually stuff that they're trying to do, like I said, that they can't get done. It might be just one specific relationship issue, but they're not realizing that is causing all the other issues. Anything you can possibly think of. And there's some people who just say, you know what, I just know there's something more for me in this world. There's something I'm missing.
So you're really helping people identify their energy.
Yes.
And I mean, I know you said blocks and unblocks. So really helping them unblock it and release what's innate and natural with their energy.
That's a nice way to put it. Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
So tell me more about the I Am movement.
The I Am movement, which I'm so excited about. At the top of the year came to me. The I Am movement's I am move, and meant is spelled MEANT.
You're meant.
Yes, because you're meant to move out of that lower vibration of that hurt and those past experiences and all the anger we hold. We're meant to move out of that. That's our lower selves. We're meant to move into our higher self, our true self, who we really are. It's like removing all those layers, which comes from ego, and then it's just the ignorance of not knowing our true power as spiritual beings. So it's move us out of there so we can start stepping up as the powerful beings we are and serving the purpose we came here to serve, that we chose to serve, and start igniting the lights of all the other people we were meant to come encounter with. There's no way I'm not here to try and light all the lights. All we needed to do is start with just one. And that one was...
Give me a breakdown of the program. How many weeks is it over?
Actually, this one I made a 14-week challenge because people are more... They like challenges and they go for it. So I started it with a 14-day challenge. And I wanted to start with that so people can see, just get a feel if they don't know, and they give it a try. But from the 14-day challenge, I'm like, I want to roll into a membership where you can just go 1 year, 2 years, go monthly. And it's to be a group of powerful individuals that come together who are ready to step into who they really are.
Right, their true energy.
They're true, and they
want to
let go.
Releasing any other blocks or energies that they're holding on to that isn't serving them.
Right, and
cool.
With other people, why not? You have accountability partners.
And doing it together with a group,
makes it so much more fun.
Much more engaging and meaningful.
Yes.
So you also have Sacred Soul Iversity. So quickly, tell me about that as well.
The Sacred Soul Iversity is now all these components is in there. Like this Iversity will have my 3-week course. It has my 8-week course, and then it will also entail, like, there's other spiritual leaders out there who say, I just want to put a course in a place where I can teach maybe meditation. Sure, come on the University. It's a place for spiritual leaders to teach. A safe space where people can say, well, I trust this, and I trust where this goes. So I can see it growing. My vision is for it to get so big that it's full of anything you can think of. I want to learn Reiki there, so it's in the university. You can learn that. I want to self-master.
So making energy healing accessible to others.
Yes, in one place. And you can, there's pre-course. Take your pre-course, go to your next course, and go, learn, grow.
And where can we find this?
At my website.
Oh yeah, sacredsoul.com.
Yeah.
Sacred with a K.
Sacred with a K. You got it.
Just a couple of last questions for you. What advice would you give to your younger self?
Ooh. Honestly, to my younger self, to keep doing what I was doing. Because honestly, everything that my younger self did got me to where I am now. So I have no regrets. I actually pat that girl in the back because she stepped out the box a lot of times.
Yeah.
And without that, I don't think I would have ever seen what I see now. So I appreciate her boldness. I appreciate her stubbornness, because it really helped her to be where she is today.
And last thing, finish this sentence. The soul is...
The soul is... That's a good one. The soul is your connection to your truth, your true self. Your soul is who you truly are.
Thank you so much, Felicia.
Thank you.
So happy to have you here. So for all of our listeners out there, you can access Felicia's I Am movement, which is starting January 24th, through her website. Called sacredsoul.com, sacred with a K. You can also follow her on Instagram, which is at @sacred_soul.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Yay!